Great. Well, thanks, Mark, for the introduction. Yeah, my name's Dave Wengel. I'm the CEO of iDatafy, SmartResume. I'm here today with Tara Dreyer, who's the Senior Managing Director with the University of Arkansas, and also Joe Rollins, who's the Director of Workforce Development for the Northwest Arkansas Council. And we're going to be talking about our session title of Smart Resumes for Upskilling Displaced Workers. And to kick things off, I'm going to go to Tara here. Tara, say hello, and I'll let you take things away to talk about the Reimagine Arkansas Workforce Grant that we recently won.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to give an overview of the Reimagine Workforce Grant that we received through the Department of Education, a federal grant that was awarded last October of 2020. So the Reimagine grant and why we qualified is the goal was to help states that were heavily impacted by COVID, and especially displaced workers, people that needed to upskill, reskill, retool, are unemployed and need to get back into the workforce. So the grant that we wrote and was funded was in conjunction with the Division of Workforce Services, and we also partnered with Shorter College, which is a smaller college in Little Rock here in Arkansas. The goal was to be able to create short-term training programs in high demand fields. So IT, manufacturing, healthcare, and also to be able to create programs that are offered 100% or completely online so that we're able to impact the entire state of Arkansas and not just where we were located. So within this grant, the University of Arkansas will be creating, well, first identifying, creating, and then deploying these online training programs. Individuals will be able to apply to the program, be qualified, enter into the program at no cost or no charge to them. And then once they complete the program, we will then hand them off to Dave and iDatafy to help them find a job. So Dave's going to go into detail on what iDatafy does and how we are going to connect these individuals to employers throughout the state. So our project is just starting. We have identified several areas through a needs assessment of programs that we'll be creating, but ultimately it'll be a 3-year project, and we will continually assess and reassess what programs we need to create for the entire state. So that's it in a nutshell, and I'm happy to answer questions later on down the road. But Dave, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. And this is really a significant win for the state of Arkansas. Tara did just a great job with the leadership of the U of A and Shorter College in the state of Arkansas. So this was a competitive grant. I believe that almost all 50 states applied for it. It was a $13 million grant, and that's going to go a long way to helping people, get upskilled. And then our part is really a supporting role, but it's to provide something that we think will be really valuable. And Joe's going to speak in a bit about kind of the employer connection side. Before we get into actually kind of what is Smart Resume, I think it helps just to kind of step back and see how we initially looked at kind of the need. And that's when we started developing Smart Resume about 3 years ago, our specialty in iDatafy is building data consortiums. And we've been working in higher ed for almost 10 years. And one of the things we found that was interesting was that, for 500 years, universities have been giving certified transcripts, certified diplomas, but universities have never given certified resumes. It's usually just hey, here's your kind of template for a resume and go to it. And then as we did some research, and this is kind of out there on the web, we're not the first to discover this, but it appears that about resumes have been around for about 500 years also. The first example on the left there. And the first resume is attributed to Leonardo da Vinci. And it's really kind of fascinating in that he literally sent off this one pager with kind of skills and abilities sent from Florence, where he was from, up to Venice to an individual who wasn't really aware of who this guy was. And so from the very beginning of resumes, there's been a trust factor. And that's really the opportunity that we see 500 years later now, where since there's really never been certified resumes, there's really been a challenge for employers to find certified job talent, when they find it, then it can take days or weeks to verify that that job talent's real, and all that impacts the ability to hire job talent. So I think in kind of conjunction with what we were doing, we joined IMS as a contributing member last year, and we're really thrilled to be one of the first three, or I guess I think there's now a fourth company that are providing or have demonstrated our willingness to go by a single standard. And so that's what, for any of you that are new to comprehensive learner records or learning and employment records, IMS is really playing this key role of setting up and making sure that people are following the same guidelines so that these records can be interoperable. So on that front, what we're going to do now is just kind of walk you through at a high level what SmartResume is. At the tail end of our 30 minutes, anyone that wants to stick around, we're going to answer questions, but we're also going to do a live demonstration. So we'll show what it looks like, how a learner can actually customize their SmartResume, apply for jobs, and then also what the employers will see. But just really at the highest level, what makes SmartResume unique now as one of the first certified CLRs is that this is a document that or a digital attestation of not just credit-based skills, credit-based degrees. It's also, a document that can attest to co-curricular, leadership, employment, and non-credit attestations from trusted partners. So the way that SmartResume works is that this is not something that a learner can just kind of whip up on their own. They have to be invited by a trusted education partner, in this case, the University of Arkansas, to build on the awards that have already been certified by them. So for the example that you see in front of you, this is someone who has, in the gold there, they've earned a information systems degree. So the Office of the Registrar from the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville has certified that, yes, this person has earned this degree. But then with the other kind of awards on here, with Tara's group at the global campus, they do a great job of creating skills-based programs that are not degree-based or credit-based, but they demonstrate that someone has gained a certain skill. So with SmartResume, we have the ability to create these resumes for people who have graduated from college, or in the case with what we're going to be doing with Reimagine Grant, maybe they don't have any college background, but they went in and they got a back-end web development certificate. On our SmartResume, we can combine the attestations from multiple partners. We recently signed on with the Arkansas Department of Education. So even things like teacher licensure will be able to be merged into an individual's SmartResume. But specific to Tara's group, I think a great example with the back-end web development is that each of our partners can also add a brief summary of what this certificate really covers. So in the case of their back-end web development, the U of A is certifying that this is a 6-month course that covers back-end development using Node, Mongo, and also JavaScript. And so this is going to be, I think, really important for employers to see, because a lot of times there's questions around badges of what does this really mean, especially for badges that they're not familiar with. And our ability is to really show employers easily, hey, here's what this certificate means. So I think it's also important to know we're not a traditional badge company. So we're not telling Tara's team, hey, you have to use our badges and that's it. We just know from building data consortiums that wouldn't scale. So what we do with our education partners is we ask each of them, hey, what is it that's unique that you can certify about your past students to us? And then all we do is just categorize it amongst our 11 or 12 categories. So if someone's graduated summa cum laude, that would go under academic honors. If someone's concentration was in blockchain, that would go under certified coursework. Or if they're a PhD student, we've certified research. And so that's our goal. So we're indexing the talent so that the individuals have the ability to easily find jobs that are relevant and employers can look for them. So if kind of the one slide, if someone asks you about SmartResume after this, what is it? This is an homage to some great companies. We're kind of like a certified LinkedIn, but for blue collar and white collar workers. And since there's never been a certified LinkedIn, there could never really be a certified Indeed.com where it's easy for employers to now look for that talent. So that's really at a high level what we're doing. And what's great about Arkansas is it's really the perfect laboratory for kind of building out a CLR ecosystem. We've got agreements with the 4 largest universities and systems in the state of Arkansas. We've got great partners like Joe, who will be speaking in a moment, who's really, part of one of the nation's leading workforce development groups up in Northwest Arkansas. That's home to, Walmart and Tyson Foods and JB Hunt and a number of others. And then also, we've got kind of workforce skill partners that are similar to our like Goodwill. So, most people know of Goodwill just from, the thrift stores, but where that money's going is for upskilling. And so that's really our goal with SmartResume, is to not only partner with the traditional universities, but really with any entity that has a trusted skills program, so that we can attest to what those learners have. And kind of, we're going to show, as I mentioned, kind of towards the tail end, what it looks like for a learner to customize their SmartResume. But on this slide, this is what an employer sees today when they log in to their SmartResume account. So the employers, and a great thing with this grant is that any employer looking to hire upskilled talent from this grant will be able to do it at no cost. So they'll be signing up to have free access to this. The employers can simply post their jobs at no cost. They can search our database of certified talent. But one of the things that's unique about us is, it's kind of hard to see in the middle here, but there's an applicant column. So employers can see who specifically applied for their jobs. But what we think is really the game changer is the column to the left, which is the candidates. So these are the individuals that, based on their upskilling for the Reimagine grant, match the skills needed for the jobs. So what we're doing is, we're not trying to recreate the wheel. We just have applied federal SOC codes to the specific degrees, or in this case, skills programs. And so each of the individual learners is tagged with at least a directionally accurate SOC code. And then for the employers, if they go to the step of tagging their jobs, then they can actually see pools of talent. So someone may not know that, Acme Co is looking to hire a supply chain manager because they've never heard of Acme Co, so they don't know to apply for it. But now the employer can see that this is someone who's actively looking for work and has the skills that they need. And unlike traditional kind of job boards where an employer really has no idea what they're getting, every single person in SmartResume Learner has at least one thing certified about them. And, I can't stress that enough, the importance of for the employers to know that this is a tool where, whether they're looking for a welder or a truck driver or a PhD computer science graduate from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, they can go here to supplement their existing search. And so just a couple more slides, and then I'm going to turn it over to Joe to talk about kind of the great work the Northwest Arkansas Council is doing, not just about this program, but in general, and what he's hearing from employers. We are using a permission blockchain for kind of the underlying engine of what we're doing. And early on, what we knew is that obviously with any immutable ledger, you don't want to put someone's contact information on that. So what we've done for our decentralized identifier is we've created what's called an iDatafy. So it's a play on our company name, and it's an alphanumeric unique key, so that when the University of Arkansas Global Campus is ready to certify that someone earned this skills certification, or any other award, we're creating or amending the iDatafy for that person, and that's what goes on the blockchain. But what really is kind of the benefit to the employers is that employers for decades have had the issue of unconscious bias creeping in and impacting their resume selection. So what we're doing is we're only showing on first blush of someone's SmartResume review by employer the iDatafy. So on the left, this is an example of a SmartResume where the employer can't tell the gender, race, or ethnicity of the individual. If they want to unlock it, and I'll be showing a live demonstration of this in about 10 minutes for those that want to stay on. If they want to see who it is, they just click unlock, and then the resume on the right shows, okay, here's the identity. And then it's very easy. It's just one click for the employer to either share this SmartResume with a colleague, or they can directly contact the individual learner to connect with them and hopefully go on the path of hiring them. So my last slide, then it creates, okay, we are now creating these certified pools of talent that are opting in to use this. So this is what an employer can see. So, we're not really recreating the wheel here. It's not that different with our talent search engine from what you'll see from other traditional job posting. But again, what makes us totally different from any other traditional job matching platform is that everyone in our system has at least one thing certified, and they want to use this. So the individual learners have the ability to also signal whether they're actively looking for talent. So as an employer, I can do an advanced search and say, hey, only show me people actively looking for work in Arkansas or in Little Rock, Arkansas, or just show me people actively looking for work that have a master's degree in supply chain management. And so this is really what we're excited about, is to make it easy for employers that have been telling Joe at the Northwest Arkansas Council for years that, hey, the biggest thing holding us back is finding talent. And especially with a place like Arkansas, a number of grads from our top universities have left the state because at the time that there wasn't the opportunity. And we need a way to really demonstrate to them that employers are hiring and make it easy for employers to connect. So with that, I'm going to take a big breath and stop talking and introduce Joe. And Joe, maybe if you could just give the audience just a couple-minute background on what you're tasked with there, and kind of, I'll ask you some questions, but maybe just get into what you see the opportunity with the Reimagine grant for the employers to be looking for talent.
You bet. Thanks, Dave. And good afternoon. Still good morning where I am to everybody. So good morning to everybody. But so the Northwest Arkansas Council, for an easy understanding of who we are, think about a regional approach to a Chamber of Commerce kind of model. We address everything from infrastructure, talent pipeline, diversity and inclusion, airport and highway construction, and the list keeps going. My area is workforce development for the region. So I try and focus on three major areas of talent attraction. We have a resident entry-level pipeline, and then we also have an adult upskilling pipeline. And then, like every region that's growing, we also have that outreach audience that we're trying to attract and bring into Northwest Arkansas. And whenever you talk about the number of jobs that we have open, even today, just today, we've got almost 8,500 open jobs, and that's across the gamut. If I look at even the heavy hitters, software development is number 2 on the list. You're talking about a world that is filled with micro certifications, credentials, uniquities that make different applicants the right prospect. And when we're talking about that volume of applicants, you need to find a way that's reliable, repeatable, and quantifiable for all those candidates coming in. And those are the kind of benefits that we're talking about with this SmartResume program. Think about all of the major job engines that our applicants are using. They're able to go out and search for different jobs, either by title or by employer or income level that suit them. But employers historically have kind of been limited to who applies to them, and then they have to do the legwork of sorting through what does a quality applicant look like. Now we're giving that an equal opportunity from the employer's side. They have something that's verifiable, they can trust it. It's something that they can quantify. It's something that they can relate to in terms of trying to determine who those best candidates are. And it's something that's trusted from the university level all the way through the micro-credentialing level. And it's quick, it's efficient, and it's something that they can move through and find a quality candidate in a hurry. So finding ways to make that quality transition from interest to application to hiring, that's the business that we're in right now. You might not think of Northwest Arkansas as a big booming metropolis, but even in the face of COVID, we're still growing by almost 30 people per day. And they're coming here because they're looking for open jobs. That open job number bounces between 8,500 to 11,000 openings at any moment. And more of those are becoming tech-centered kind of occupations. So having the ability to trust what an applicant puts on that resume and move them all the way through the process, that's valuable.
And that's great, Joe. And I think this is what we see as the opportunity, right? It is, there's value propositions for certainly for job seekers, right? This will help them, differentiate themselves from someone that that doesn't have, a certified skill or even kind of where do they get started? Tara, do you mind just giving a little bit of a quick 2-minute too on who's eligible for this, just to give other states that are listening in some ideas? Because I think this is one of the most groundbreaking things is just, this is open to anyone that really needs it, right? In terms of that have been displaced or looking to get upskilled.
Yeah, so it's very wide and broad, and we intended it to be that way because there are so many people that fall into so many different categories that we didn't want to limit it to just one group of individuals who have been impacted by COVID. So it could be anybody who was laid off or displaced during COVID. It could be somebody who is unemployed or underemployed. It could be somebody who wants to upskill or reskill and get a better job. It can also be a career changer. So it could be somebody who already has employment. Let's say they're working for a company in logistics and have decided that they want to get training in IT. They could also qualify for this. So it's very broad. We're also targeting recently individuals who have been recently incarcerated. We're looking at individuals who potentially want to start up their own business and go into entrepreneurship. So it's very wide and broad. The one other thing that I will say about it is that it is no cost to the individual or participant, but there also is no cost at this point because the grant is funding it for the businesses and industries who are looking for the talent. So the grant is really helping us make a big impact in the state of Arkansas by being able to provide an easy way for individuals to connect with companies and vice versa, companies to connect with individuals.
That's great, Tara. And I think we're at about the 23-minute mark. I may just jump in. Are there any immediate questions, Tara, that are on the chat? If not, I can immediately jump into the demo right now and just kind of show. It's a lot easier to show versus tell. And we did a little bit of this with the PowerPoint. But let me just give a kind of an example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as an individual. So as a learner here. So bear with my slow typing skills here. So what you see here is this is what a learner sees, as I'll call it. And so we know from our testing, no one's ever heard of really a certified resume before, or probably a CLR if you're in the public. And so we set up a really simple onboarding program where it's just, okay, it's 4 steps to get started with SmartResume. And here they are. So, and then we even kind of label this out because we know that quite frankly, hardly anybody reads, initial instructions. So for the learner, they can go ahead and they can click on their SmartResume, and every SmartResume is going to be a little different. Some will have 1 thing certified. We've seen some that have had 10 or 15 things certified. But the way that the SmartResumes start off is, and this is obviously just a test example here. For this example, this individual, there's 5 things certified. So they've got a certified degree. They've been certified as making chancellor's list. One of the unique aspects is we can also certify co-curricular leadership information. So for this individual, they were a president of this leadership group. We even made actually certified resumes for varsity athletes at the University of Arkansas. So in this case, captain of the varsity tennis team. And then for relevant coursework, the University of Arkansas has a great repository of the degree concentrations. So something like information systems is very broad. We can also get down to, hey, this is specifically what someone was focused on. But this isn't just a digital transcript that should be stale. So think of this as kind of a transcript that individual learners can customize. So they could say, I'm looking to join a fast-paced startup, period, something fairly generic. We've studied thousands of resumes. It takes an individual about 5 minutes to copy and paste their existing resume sections over to SmartResume, and then everything is drag and drop. So the other thing we heard loud and clear from learners or people using SmartResume is they're not going to use it if it doesn't look the way that they want to, at least from a chronological perspective. And so that was really a key aspect of our development. And even before we even learned about the CLR certification, we had always had a commitment that SmartResume was not going to be a walled garden. So an individual has the ability to save a PDF copy of their SmartResume with their name on it, and they can send it to anyone in the world they want. This will hold true with the Reimagine Work Grant. So someone can, not only apply simply in our system, but they also have the ability to go ahead and send it to any employer. And so whether it's the learner or the employer, what makes us unique is when they click on each of our kind of medallions, this in real time is showing the verification. So it's showing, in this case, Test University on December 15th, 2019 at 4:14 p.m. certified that this person graduated, and that as of now, this degree has neither been revoked or expired. The individual learner has the ability to download that badge. And that's the case across the board. So if someone just wants to download their SmartResume awards and use them elsewhere, they can. With the preferences, just to go through this quickly, as I mentioned, we want to make it easy for learners to signal, are they actively looking for work? If they are, they can click this and then they'll be highlighted for employers. Maybe someone's not actively looking for work, but they're willing to be contacted. Or third, if someone doesn't want to be contacted by anybody, we obviously want to respect that. The last thing that we want is for our leading employer partners to contact someone who doesn't want to be contacted. So our individual learners have the ability to be completely invisible. They can even select specific companies that they don't want to see their SmartResume. So the last thing I'm going to show you specific to for the learner is just how easy it is to apply for jobs. So if you remember, we talked about the SOC codes. So for every learner, they've got a dynamic ranking of open positions based on their background. So an individual that's a programmer is going to see programming jobs higher up than they will see something like a welder or supply chain. So if someone sees a job that they like, they read it over, it's literally just going to be 2 clicks for our Reimagine grant learners to apply for jobs. And it's that easy. So that's kind of what it looks like from a learner's perspective. And I'm happy to take questions in about 2 minutes. The last thing that I'm going to show is what it looks like when an employer is actually logging in. So for the employers, I can't talk and type at the same time. This is what the employer sees. So we just saw that we applied for that job. Again, the employer sees here in the middle who've applied and then the candidate pool. So as the employer, I would have gotten a text message or an email that I just got a job application. So I just simply log into my platform and now I can see the talent, right? So you saw me a few minutes ago create on the fly job objectives. I'm checking to make sure that this person really made chancellor's list, because a lot of times people can kind of fudge about that kind of thing. And if this is someone that I decide that I want to review, I just click unlock. And then now you can see on the top, it goes from the iDatafy to that this is Gal Smiley. So now I can check my internal applicant tracking system, see if we're already talking to Gal. If I want to share Gal's SmartResume with a colleague, I can easily do that. And then my colleague would see the anonymized resume at first as well. And then they can choose whether they want to unlock and see the identity. But last but not least, we just also make it really simple to contact them. So when Gal set up the learner, logged into our system, she told us, here's how I want to be contacted, by text or email or both. And so it's just, in 20 seconds, the employer can reach out to them directly through our messaging platform and set up an interview. And so that's going to be really our goal. And what we feel is really unique about this and what we've heard is that we're excited about how many certified learner records there will be on the market. We want to be interoperable with any of them, all of them that follow that standard. Our goal is to make it easy for the employers to not only post their jobs, but to be able to search for that talent. And so this is that example you saw kind of static before. We've created over 68,000 SmartResumes to date. We'll be in the hundreds of thousands as we go through the year. And we're just excited to partner with Tara and to Joe to help these folks that have been the most underserved. Tara will get them the skills. We'll create the SmartResumes, and then Joe's going to play a key role in building awareness for us to the leading employers in the state. So Tara, Joe, anything else that you want to add? I think I was able to quickly get through in the full half hour there. the deck and the demonstration. But anything that you all would like to add before we jump to questions?
No, Dave, I think you said it right. Just kind of a closing point, having everything from availability, access to the jobs, and then in a trusted employer certification program, it makes it pretty seamless. So great job.
Yep. And Tara, I'm just bringing up the chat right now, and people can probably see this since I'm sharing my screen, which is fine. So we'll just go through these, and then people can continue to add in chat here. How is that certification different from regular open badges or CLR verification in other systems? So we are initially, we got our Open Badges 2.0 issuer certification. So we have that through IMS. And then right now, I think we're one of the first 4 companies that are following IMS's CLR standards. So our product team and tech team are working closely with IMS to kind of share what our experience has been. So we started on this 3 years ago. So we've learned a lot in terms of, what education partners can provide, what employers are looking for, and what the individual job applicants feel will help differentiate them. So, we are the biggest champion for CLRs. I think in the mid to long term, our goal is to not even have to organically create all the individual SmartResume awards through our partners. If there's a trusted education partner out there, or an award that's been certified as CLR through IMS, they'll be able to onboard those onto SmartResume, if they so wish. The second question, does the CLR allow importing of external CLRs for remixing? Yes, and so that's as long as this is going to be, as long as the kind of the input is from a CLR certified award partner, it will. We're already working through the final steps. I think one challenge that we could see is, someone could potentially get 3 or 4 or 5 CLRs made for them. We could even do that with different partners. So with our iDatafy, our individuals will have the ability to merge their various SmartResume awards onto a singular document. And that's going to be really important so that there aren't 4 or 5 SmartResumes out there floating for Tara. The next question, are you planning any measures for rural areas or those with poor connection to the internet? How do you reach out to underserved or underrepresented individuals or communities? That's a great question, and kind of, I think some of the exciting things that we're seeing, not necessarily just part of this grant, but as part of a lot of the COVID funding, at least in Arkansas, there's been a significant investment in better broadband deployment. And then also, I think there's, the digital literacy aspect. And so we're going to be hiring up staff to be able to work with individuals who may not really have ever made a resume before. To be honest, I was kind of humbled when we did a small pilot with a group of incarcerated women, and they literally had tears in their eyes, 2 of the women, because 1, no one had really vouched for them, but 2, they were too embarrassed to say they hadn't made a resume before. And so the nice thing about SmartResume is that even just by someone opting in, they become kind of part of a certified talent registry. So as long as they want to be found, then an employer can see the skills that they get through Tara's team or Shorter College without them even adding in kind of additional resume features. So, if someone worked at a fast food restaurant, that may not be that kind of valuable for an employer to know, but they could be very, excited to see that they got this upskill, in the last few weeks from Tara's group. So I think we're just a small part of that, but we're going to be, making a point of reaching out to people, and obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, but just to be clear, there will be thousands of people with SmartResumes that don't even have a high school degree, but they've got a skill that's been certified, and that's really intrinsic to what we're doing.
Yeah, the other thing that I would just say to that is, speaking to the underserved and underrepresented individuals, that we have many partnerships. It is not just Dave, Joe, and I trying to take on the state and help train multiple people, that we have partnerships with the Division of Workforce Services, all of the local economic development divisions. And so these are long partnerships that have taken several years to establish and build, but now we are able to reach those populations. And Dave, I was going to say exactly what you said on the connection to the internet. This grant didn't fund that. And, you know, our goal was basically to build the programs and get individuals connected to employers that go through those programs. But the state is doing so many other things to help make sure that individuals have access to the internet.
Yep. And then just the last chat as of now from Holly. So great question here. So an individual, if you as an employer receive a SmartResume via email, you'll have the ability to verify that. You can't just kind of walk in without credentials to actually search all the talent. So we require our employer partners just to agree to our terms and conditions. But this is something that, we are, taking a, laser focused on Arkansas, and plans in the works to also roll this out, regionally and nationally, to other education partners. So that's our goal, is to make this for individual learners. This is not a walled garden. Many employers, you'll start getting SmartResumes, whether you're using the system or not, and we just think that's great branding for us. It's great, so then the employers can go and look for additional talent. And so that's how it works. So in the coming weeks, employers will be able to, in Arkansas, sign up for a completely free account and go from there. I think, Tara, Joe, I appreciate y'all. I think we're coming up. Well, I'll wait another minute or so here for any questions, but we got through a lot of information quickly there, and we're excited here, guys, to do this. As I said, Arkansas is just a great laboratory for this. And I think that employers are clearly, ready for this kind of concept. And we couldn't ask for a better partner than IMS to help set a framework, so that, people are kind of on the same page. So Mark, I think that's it for us on our side. I'll leave it to you if you have any closing thoughts or thoughts.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much for the information. And I'm going to end the recording right now and say thank you.
Great. Thanks, everybody.